Well, good morning, and thank you very much for joining us. I am Yori Folari. Now, I don't know why I always tell you when it happens, but yeah, it is raining in Lagos, southwest of the country, where we happen to be broadcasting from. But then again, geography being what it is, it might well be that not everybody watching us across Lagos will be aware of the rain. So it could just be in some areas. That's meteorology for you. But we will continue, shall we say, the theme that we began on yesterday, looking at how do we resolve the ASUU crisis. ASUU, as you know, has been on strike. We had the chair of the UNILAG chapter. And this morning, we'll also be able to talk to Professor Ted Anyebe of the Benue State University in due course. And our other guest is Mr. Demola Adegoke, communications consultant, and he also keeps an eye on the society generally. Thank you very much for coming on.
Thanks for having me here once again.
Our pleasure, our pleasure. First of all, from the point of view of the rest of us, because people called in yesterday as well and offered their opinion. It was something of a mixed house, whereas some said that they indeed saw the reason for ASUU's action. There were others that were saying that perhaps ASUU needed to check alternative mechanisms for resolving these issues. In other words, they were complaining about the strike. Now, we're all stakeholders because we're Nigerians, and this is a Nigerian affair because it concerns education in Nigeria. And many people, some of them who called in actually have wards, children, in those universities, yet their point of view was, so in one case, they said that we understand what ASUU is doing. Even though I am hurt, I have a kid in school, at home now that should be at school, but still I support what ASUU is doing. There are others who are saying, who called in, that maybe there are other ways. Have you made up your mind on how to feel about this exactly?
Yes, I like the starting point that as Nigerians, we should all be concerned. And I must tell you that I even feel that the issue has not generated the kind of national interest that one would have expected it to generate, because this is not an ASUU federal government affair. It is about the nation. It is about us. And I mean, for any nation to have its universities shut down for over 6 months, I think it should be something of concern. And let me go down memory lane a little to recall what happened in 1989 when under President Ibrahim Babangida. Some universities spearheaded or were seen to have spearheaded the anti-SAP riot. And Babangida, in rage, shut down 6 universities. Then Ibadan, Benin, BUK, and maybe Jos, and some others, some 2 other universities. And he said he shut them down for 6 months. And because maybe the nation had not seen anything of such before, everybody, civil society, organizations, everybody, and at the end of the day, a delegation of traditional rulers was led by the then Oni and the Emir of Kano to Babangida. When the pressure was much on Babangida, he had to resign that decision, to reopen the universities. Because as at then, I think the difference between then and now is that the nation had not become as impervious to absurdities and oddities as we have become now.
Maybe strike fatigue has sort of set in because it's been going on.
Well, because for a nation, like I said, to have its universities shut down for 6 months, for over 6 months, and we feel maybe it's just same of the same, and nobody is, yes, people are talking, but I expect that it will have generated much more concern than one has seen. I had expected that, NLC at its own level, yes, NLC, but I think it's just scratching the issue on the head. Traditional rulers, religious leaders one had expected that we will have taken this up because it is about us. And we may not know, what price we are going to pay for this. Indeed. But definitely we are going to pay, we are going to pay, a huge price for this. A huge,
and this last point that you've made, I was reading in the press that the CVC, the Committee of Vice Chancellors, also made the point that the schools have been forcibly closed down. This is not, this is not the way it should be. Ordinarily, it should be the Senate of Universities alone that can do this kind of a thing. But it's being forcibly, some of them have been forcibly shut down, and quite frankly, getting them back up again is going to take some doing. Now government is going to have to come into it and help out. But I hear that we can now be joined by, we can now speak with Professor Ted Anyebe of the Benue State University. He's of the Department of Theatre Arts. Good morning to you, Professor.
It's like the earpiece is shut down.
If that is your voice, Professor, I can hear you. I just heard what you said. Nothing is shut down. If you can hear me, I just said, good morning, Professor. Okay. We'll sort that out. It's from time to time, those gremlins do get within the cables and that kind of a thing. So as I was saying, even the Committee of Vice Chancellors, first of all, what they are saying is that government needs to do a rethink. They put it in as diplomatic and discreet language as they could, that look, they were talking about compassionate grounds, that government sticking to its guns about labor laws and not paying for work, that they need to actually, on compassionate grounds, look into paying the university community the salaries that have been withheld of.
I do not know whether that is the only ASUU.
It's not the only one. It's not the only one at all.
It's not the only grouse of ASUU. You understand? But even,
the UNILAG president yesterday made that point that this salary business is just a part of it.
It's just a part of it. It's just a
the
part
place
of
is crumbling. The university structure.
You see, and when you were talking about, you were sort of asking, where do I stand? Some people have said they support what ASUU is doing, and some have said that maybe ASUU should also, re-strategize. I think I want to stand in between the two positions. One, I want to say that government has acted the big brother enough. You understand?
Okay.
Even I'm not on this ASUU strike alone, but on university administration generally. Now, you will see that in the meeting between the pro-chancellor and the vice chancellors and on one hand, and the Minister of Education on the other hand, it was sort of saying that maybe in the future, government is not going to be negotiating with ASUU. It will be strictly, the business of the various councils of the universities. And that is the way it's supposed to be. Indeed. I do not know of any nation, outside us where universities are run the way they are in Nigeria, because they are supposed to be independent. When you say university, it's like a universe on its own. It's a universe on its own. You understand? Operating.
But that's not the way it is.
That's not the way it is here.
In fact, this point you've made, I think government is thinking of setting up another committee. But let me get clarity on it. We have a report on the matter. Okay. Let's take that report and then continue our conversation.
For the past 6 months, students of Nigeria's public universities have been at home following the inability of the federal government and the academic staff union of universities to reach an agreement. In its effort to resolve the strike, the federal government set up the NIMI BRICS committee to look into the 2009 federal government ASUU agreements, but the committee's report was rejected. The federal government's decision to introduce the policy of no work, no pay made the union to extend its strike indefinitely.
Academic Staff Union of Universities.
Today, the Ministry of Education meets with Vice Chancellors and Pro-Chancellors of federal universities. The outcome of the meeting is the setting up of a 14-man committee to look into areas where government has failed to reach a consensus with the union. Although no time frame is given as to when the committee is expected to come up with its reports, the government has promised that all grey areas will soon be resolved and lecturers will in no time resume work.
Even Briggs himself is part of this committee. Nobody has petitioned it. It is in continuation of what the Briggs committee did, the offers that were made, what was accepted by ASUU and what was not accepted. It's a continuation of the Briggs committee.
We're on quick march towards early resolution of the problem. And in a very little while, the doors of our universities, those that are closed, will be open.
The committee is made up of pro-chancellors, vice-chancellors and heads of government agencies. No member of the academic staff union of universities is represented in this committee, which will be chaired by the Minister of Education. The committee is expected to submit the outcome of its report to President Muhammadu Buhari for further action. Helen Osamede Akins, TVC News, Abuja.
Okay, thanks for that report. And yes, we can now speak with Professor Anyebe. Professor Ted Anyebe is of the Department of Theatre Arts, Benue State University. Good morning to you, Prof.
Yes, good morning.
Okay, thank you very much. This is Yori Folani in studio. I'm alongside Ademola Adegoke, communications consultant. So thank you for making time for us, Professor. We're here because of the...
Thank you very much for having me.
Our pleasure. So
Thank you.
We thought we'd find out from you, is there anything to report, first of all, by way of a sort of a progress report on where we were as of yesterday, so for example?
Sorry,
I was wondering...
audio has gone off again.
Okay, can you hear me now? Can you hear me as I speak?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay. So I was asking,
Yes, I can hear you now.
Is there anything worthwhile to report in the way of progress since the Committee of Vice Chancellors have been, they've been meeting? I hear that following a meeting that they held with government officials, they held an emergency meeting of their own. And, well, the one thing is not that it's the only thing, but I do know that they've been counseling governments to consider on compassionate grounds paying the university committee, the lecturers, their salaries. But I hasten to add, we have heard that that is not the only, or indeed for that matter, the most important grievance of ASUU. So anything to report? Are you still having...
Yes, I didn't hear the most part of what you said.
I'm so sorry.
Lastly, but
I'm so sorry.
when you started, I got part of your question, which says whether there has been any progress or so.
Okay, let's work with that. That's fine.
Okay. Yes. First of all, let me thank you for making me part of this ongoing conversation.
Our pleasure.
Right. Now, has there been any progress? Of course. Since the ASUU federal government industrial dispute started, since February this year, we're now in September. Of course, there has been some progress. But of immediate significance, the immediate progress that one can make reference to is the discussion between the vice chancellors and the meeting with NUC. I think that that meeting was brought together by the federal government. That in itself is a step forward. We're not staying in the same spot. So from that context of the fact that federal government has brought in NUC to call in the vice chancellors to bring in a resolution or to do a truce in this ongoing imbroglio. I think it is a mark of progress, so to say. But whether the recommendations themselves are going to bring in a permanent solution to this ongoing, continuous industrial disputes between university staff unions and the federal government is another matter. For instance, there are a number of the positions which ASUU has taken and the positions which was arrived at as a result of the discussion which they had a few days ago. The outcome, the recommendations, are neither, some of the recommendations I can say are okay, they are agreeable, but the key thing that ASUU continues to talk about is the issue of having a level playground. You have a dispute with somebody, and then the persons that are being called upon to mediate in a dispute between you and somebody, the person, the other party is not there. So the question of getting an ASUU hearing in the discussion, the principle of collective bargaining has again been set aside. And I think this is the hallmark of, the progress that are supposed to be made. If there is a dispute between parties, those parties are supposed to be sitting down during discussions that will lead to an amicable resolution. Now, a number of, for instance, when ASUU says UTAS must be deployed as a payment platform, the university is a peculiar institution. You cannot run the university and employ the same parameters of governing the university in the way that you run the core civil service. Well, government has said that they are going to look into the matter. They are going to bring in all the platforms that UTAS, the one that the non-academic staff have brought, and then, of course, see how they can integrate that into IPPS. IPPS has failed. Why going to wake up a dead child? All right, you want to use IPPS because it is been put together by government. Fine. Maybe the issue of nomenclature should not be what we'll be struggling with. But what is going to be used, the steps, the various, channels, the steps that are going to be used in employing payment for university staff should take into consideration the peculiarities of the university institution. I think that is where we should go. Mm-hmm. I think that is where we should go. Okay, well, thank you very much. And then, of course, to begin to say that when ASUU says that 170 billion should be released for the intervention purposes, government is saying that they have to wait until the 2023 budget is passed. But we are talking about what should happen immediately. Are we going to wait? Or is ASUU is being told, and the children who have been at home for almost 2 semesters, the time that they have been at home, February to September, is enough for a student to graduate from one level to another. So are they going to wait until 2023 for another session again to pass? I think waiting. Look, we are facing an emergency. The educational sector in Nigeria has been treated like an orphan for too long. And we cannot wait. We cannot wait. The world outside there in other climes are moving ahead. And the education sector in Nigeria is being stagnated. No society moves forward when the educational sector is being, treated as if it doesn't have any value.
Okay.
But education is one of those triple stands upon which the development of any country can stand. Now one of those stands is being dismembered, and that is not right. So we cannot wait. We are looking for an immediate situation, an immediate solution, not to wait till 2023.
Okay. Well, thank you for that opening, Prof. I'll come back to you, but for the moment, I understand that technical thing, again, the Prof might actually not be hearing what I am saying, but we'll soon sort that out. So there you go, Mr. Adegoke. He's outlined, quite frankly, what the position of ASUU is in relation to this. And, he spoke about, we also heard from the chair of the UNILAG chapter of ASUU yesterday that a memorandum of action, not of understanding this time, of action. With dates, check-off times, and that kind of thing, has been agreed to. Yet, according to the chair of ASUU, UNILAG, he was saying that it's been observed in its
in the breach.
So this is a problem. And he also made the points that the Prof is also making, that there seems to be no other way to think about it other than that government is being disdainful of the whole academic structure of this country. And as the Prof said, how does a country get ahead if you are busy shredding your educational structure?
You see, for me, he was talking about, yes, he talked about government not placing the right premium on education. Yes, government can be accused of that. And I had said that I want to stand in between ASUU and government, and my own position is that just as government has its own faults, I think there is also that, need for ASUU to also, to reappraise its approach. And because for me, even if, this problem is solved now, and ASUU goes back to the classroom, and then very, very, very soon again, we have this problem. So long we have not solved the systemic problem that is in university, that is embedded in university administration in this country. There is that systemic, between 1999 and now. As at August, ASUU had gone on strike for a total of 1,417 days, which is almost 4 years, enough for you to complete a degree program. So, so let us address that systemic issue. And what are those systemic issues? Like I said, universities, even if you talk of UTAS, you talk of IPPS, no two universities are supposed to be the same.
Okay.
In culture, in orientation, in everything. You understand? Each university has its own, culture, has its own orientation, has its own focus. So a university is supposed to be an autonomous entity.
This is another point that the Committee of Vice Chancellors made, that each university should be allowed to develop its own
So it's not even about UTAS. It's not about, because UTAS, we are still talking of a generic approach, to the issue. I am talking of let us run universities the way they are run elsewhere.
I was telling me how 1,000, how many days?
417 days,
1,
since 1999.
Since 1999. So it goes to show you that the university system is not new to this kind of a situation. However, we also have on the other end Professor Ted Ayebe, who is joining us remotely. We're actually yeah, he joined us remotely and we were able to speak with him. But there still are some things to iron out in terms of him being able to hear us properly enough. He's of the Department of Theatre Arts, Benue State University. But the professor did, make a number of positions clear. Whereas he seems to be understanding and sympathetic to anything that can be done to make this situation right, they will be for it. But he pointed out, for example, the attitude of government, the way he sees it, and let it be said, the way ASUU sees it. For example, this whole 170 billion naira grant that is necessary. The professor was pointing out that we are in a crisis now. If you can make that provision now, then we'll know that we really are on the road to coming out of the mud, so to speak. But you're saying wait till the first quarter of 2023. And so that goes back to where he was before that. He doesn't, it's not that they're looking for any kind of special respect, but this is bordering on disdain from the position of ASUU.
Yes, if you look at it from the position of ASUU, it actually appears disdainful. For government to say that no, you need to wait till 2023 when the money will be appropriated, and then we will be able to fund your request. To that extent, I also maybe one we want to see reason with ASUU. But the point of the matter again is that government could not have appropriated fund for this, you understand, in the 2022 budget. And government will be saying, where do we find the money? But I know that they say where there is a will, there is always a way. So government can run back to the House for supplementary budget or whatever, and then this environment or whatever you want to call it. But what I just want to say in this instance is that when you have a situation like this, a hard stance posture is not expected of either of the parties.
And it's not going to be helpful.
And it's not going
Let
to
me
be
apologize to Ada. Good morning, Ada. Thank you for holding on.
Good morning, Mr. Ayori and Mr. Ademola.
Thank you.
Mr. Ada calling from Jos Plateau State. The way forward, Mr. Ayori, in this crisis of ASUU, FD should rescind its decision on no work, no pay. I don't want to go into, that is not really applicable to ASUU because of the peculiar nature of their work, except they want the students to lose a complete session. Then I'm using this medium to appeal to President Buhari to, use his executive powers to remove ASUU from the IPPIS payment platform. Then that is, and then migrate them to UTAS. These are the two major problems. If they can do these two, then I now appeal to ASUU to shift ground. The other agreements, whatever they have accepted, whether it's a salary increase or whatever, they can negotiate that, and then they give timelines. And for me, the way I see it, even if they don't start implementing it now, no problem. Let them now. Let's hope on the next administration. It could be APC that will win. It could be another party. But even if it's APC, it's another person that will be another pilot. So it depends on the person's own view about education. So if you ask me, Mr. Yori, I want a situation whereby ASUU is unbundled. Let them have FASU.
Okay.
What I mean. Federal Academic Staff Union of Universities, so that they address federal problems. Okay, now state universities now, there's no work, no pay. Those states whose governors are not owing. How can you go and drink a Panadol of another person's headache? That's why they're threatening them, and that's why they're on. And that's why some of them are pulling out. It doesn't make sense. Even salary increase, if federal government negotiates a salary increase, can the state, will it be abiding on the state government? So why do we do funny things in this country? It's because we have refused to restructure. If we restructure, every state will be on its own and decide on whether they will rise jump or not or whatever, All the same, let's all do about this country. It shall be well. God bless you.
Thank you very much, Ada, for calling in there from Jos. Interesting, she suggested in there that, have we thought about unbundling ASUU?
No, she sort of took the wind off my sail. You understand? Because some of the things I had wanted to say, I think she has already set the tone for them. One, you see, like I said, ASUU has to reappraise its approach. You understand? One, this uniform approach to university administration, regardless of the ownership. Because I tell you now that the present negotiation is only with the federal government. It is only with the federal government. I wish that Professor, we will be able to link up again with the Professor, and probably will be able to enlighten us better. When you settle with the federal government, what happens to state universities? You understand? And so even the idea of negotiating the same salary for all university lecturers, I think for me, it's incongruous with the concept of federalism. It is incongruous with the concept of...
You're on the same page with the CVC, the Committee of Vice Chancellors, who also made that observation that in an ideal case scenario, every university would be allowed to erect its own structure. This whole matter of a uniform...
but that will only happen, like I've said, when the federal government starts playing, the big brother, like I've said, that wants to pretend over everything. You understand?
Well, you said you've not seen a place, a country where education is handled quite the way we do it here. Well, it's not just education. Recall, sports. There are people who have said that our sports, it might be a totally different kettle of fish, but the government is too much in sports.
Too much into everything.
And then, in this case now, so maybe that's the Nigerian peculiarity, but that is what is being stressful now and is being tested.
So for me, even if Lagos University, if the University of Lagos, for example, decides to charge, tuition fees, in its own school, and it says this is the much that students are supposed to pay. If you have the money, you go there. Make universities autonomous. Make them financially independent. Make them administratively independent. And then we will be able to, so we will run out of this crisis. So long as we want to apply the same one size fits all, this one size fits all approach cannot work in university administration.
And there's been neglect in the system, according to ASUU, structures, the science facilities, laboratories have been neglected such that even to open and operate effectively now, it's going to cost a pretty penny, and government needs to begin to look towards grants for that purpose. Otherwise, it hardly will have any meaning. In fact, they even cautioned, the Committee of Vice Chancellors cautioned against any forcible opening of the universities. I'm not too sure what that means, but for a forcible opening of the universities, according to them, would be counterproductive.
Yes, definitely. Like I said it already, that if the universities reopen now, and these systemic issues are still left there, we will still come back to the same point so soon. So soon, we just be moving in.
So.
It will still come back. So
let me see. Sorry, I beg your pardon. Uche has called in from Abeokuta. Good morning, Uche.
Yeah, good morning. Good morning.
Iori is my name.
Iori.
Thank you very much for calling in.
And the panelist over there.
Yeah,
thank you.
that's Mr. Adegoke.
This is Uche calling from Ogun State.
Sure.
I think the way the ASUU are going about the strike, I think it's okay by me. I have a sister that is in the university, and right now she's no longer in school. But I think the federal government are at fault in all of this. For you to go on strike and to make it weighty, you must have to incorporate as much people, as much body as you can. I want to believe that if it were to be aviation sector that we are on strike, they can't last for only just one day. Why all this are lingering all this while is because the federal government don't take education serious. So we should all come up and support ASUU to stop federal government from all this their shenanigans. They go around giving money to the Niger Republic. Because about giving money to the Niger Republic, giving our money to Afghanistan, paying subsidy of millions of naira, but when it comes to education, they'll be dilly-dallying. They're giving flimsy excuses. So I disagree with people that say that the state should be separate, federal should be separate. Let everybody come together and let everybody join on this strike so that federal government will take everybody serious in this country. This federal government come with a change. I don't know the change they came with. Now it is still the same thing that were happening before that is happening now. So what is the change all about?
All right then,
So
Uche, thank you very much for calling in from Abeokuta in Ogun State there. That's a vote of confidence for ASUU from Uche. Even, as I said, I was illustrating with another situation similar to Uche's. He says he has his sister at home, but nevertheless, ASUU should, persevere because that is the only way to get hold of well, as you were saying, it's a systemic thing more than anything else.
It is.
Well, we're going to have to wait and see how it goes because it would be very ideal if government were to do, government were to allow some of the things that you said, autonomy to the universities.
Yes.
They know best how to govern themselves, how to run their own affairs. They are the academics. It's their whole life. But the government is saying that, welcome, we here have been elected to run affairs. And the way you people are going, whether in between UTAS and IPPIS,
3PS,
all those things, government is not yet comfortable to go. In fact, government has said at a certain time that it's not for the employee to dictate to the employer how matters shall be. So I don't know.
But what if I shock you that the federal government is actually not the direct employer of the university lecturers? It is actually the university councils. It is actually the university councils. And that is why we are saying that if the university councils are the employers of the lecturers, one expects that you leave the council to determine how the university is run. But for federal government to just come up with IPPS one day and it now says that it has to apply to every university, this is part of the problem. Even these UTAS that ASUU is also talking about, and then the 3PS that non-academic staff union is talking about, it may not still apply to every university. We know how universities are run. We know how, so Cambridge, Oxford, and the rest of them, government has little or no, the only thing that government needs to do about university administration is regulation of standard.
That's right. Okay. Yes.
It's standard regulation.
But now beginning to, well, I imagine that ASUU sees it as micromanaging. To begin to micromanage on this level, this is from the point of view of ASUU. So, it's what is causing all of these problems.
So, but as for the structure, the operations, day-to-day running of the school, it should be left to each school to determine. But then it will also be very difficult because it is often said that he who pays the piper calls the tune. So if so long as everything about funding comes from government, then it will be so difficult for the universities to be weaned off the control of government.
Because the universities themselves are not able to be financially independent as per the system.
And that is what some state governments, they are finding a way around this. For example, I understand that the Osun State University, the school charges commercial fees, and I mean, if it pleases you, you send your word there, and and that is why a state like Osun State University, a school like Osun State University, they are not on strike presently. And so,
yes, that's for a state university. But and as you know, the private universities are not on strike.
No, I am also coming to that. That we need. You see, when we were in the university in those days, we usually said that the university is a leveler. That you could go to private primary school. Yes, you could go to private secondary school. We will all come to meet
there
and then
at the tertiary level
and prove our mettle at the university level. But then now, the public university is also being killed gradually. You understand? We are bringing instrumental death, you understand, to public university. At the end of the day, what is the loss of the public university is becoming the gain, of, in fact, some of them, some private universities have started issuing forms, transfer forms out, that if you are 300 in a public university and you want to transfer, we are ready to absorb you. You understand? We just look at your transcript and we see how you fit into our own system.
And of course, there will also be fees to pay.
There will be fees to pay.
And the problem is that, as you know, not very many people can afford to have wards
in private universities. And that is why.
And that's why the public structure, the public system
must not. For me, Uncle Yori, if you ask me, I will say that the present system, cannot subsist for too long. No, there is no, I don't know, maybe with the exception of super oil-rich nations of the world, like like you have in the Middle East, that you have universities being completely free. Nigerians, we must, we can't play the ostrich in this matter. We need to know that, because look at it, the same, and at this point I want to leave ASUU, I want to leave federal government. Let's talk to ourselves as citizens. You send your ward to a private primary school, he pays hundreds of thousands. He goes to secondary school, he pays hundreds of thousands, if not millions. Now he wants to come to public university. And government now says, okay, maybe pay 100,000 or 150,000, and we are shouting, hey, they don't want children of the poor to go to school. There is a way, that, nations of the world, have also found around this. There can be student loans. These are some of the things that we can do to run our universities. But then we want to run universities, pro bono. I think we will be having issues. So that's why, and on the part of ASUU too, ASUU needs to do a serious reappraisal of its, because some of the things that ASUU is even clamoring for, they are incongruous and antithetical to the federal system.
Okay. Let me Prof. First of all, apologies that it's not been as smooth as it usually is, but Professor Ted Anyebe is back with us again. And we've been, ruminating over some of the things that you said when we did have you. Can you still hear me, Prof? Can you hear me good?
Yes, I can hear you faintly though, but I understand what you are trying to say.
Okay.
Trying to.
Yes. I was saying that we've been discussing on what you have said, and I recall that that ASUU has said anyway that, look, teaching is just about 10% of, its core function. Well, people might have thought otherwise, that, teaching is supposed to, but they say that that's what people don't understand, that there's so much more. So it's, they're being out of the system here, if you can still hear me, because of this closure, is really turning, quite frankly, killing, if you want, killing, because the research is not going on, which the lecturers say is one of the major things that preoccupy them when term is off. So ASUU has said that it just is not being understood. And there are, as I was saying to you earlier, people have called in saying that shouldn't ASUU sort of review its situation? I don't know how much sympathy you have for that line of thought, Professor. That is, ASUU reviewing its procedure and maybe not going the strike route anymore. Are there alternatives worthy of consideration?
Yes, of course, there are alternatives.
Continue, Prof.
Yes, there are alternatives. There are alternatives. And I can tell you that the alternative is to go to the foundation of the problem.
Okay.
Now, you don't want to have industrial dispute. Then don't create the environment for dispute to thrive. I think that is the major solution, not just an alternative. Now, you see, our friend in the studio is talking about unbundling ASUU. In a situation where you have
that was the viewer,
federal government taking care of federal universities, and then state governments taking care of their universities, and then of course even the state governments, because there are so many state government owned universities, they should run independently and autonomously. The university system comes from the concept of universality. Now, yes, every university has its culture. But the point we are talking about here now in Nigeria is the fact that universities cross-pollinate. University has a system of, having to do, the academic staff of the university go to other universities within Nigeria and even outside, and they teach, they do research, they share their values, they share the values of their own institution. And by so doing, there is a bonding. There is a bonding. So the issue of having independent institution running as if the other one does not exist cannot apply even in the universities in other climes that we're talking about. Every university should attract brains from other universities to see how they can cross-pollinate ideas so that they can share their own values with others. That is a peer review system, so to say. This is how universities run, even at the international level. And then the other way, ASUU is not running away. It's one of those issues that ASUU will be very happy with if government actually grants autonomy to universities. The university lecturers who make up ASUU are all intellectuals. They are the ones that teach even the people who are succeeding in business now. They went through, those of them who went to the universities, they went through universities, they were taught, and then they went out, and they are applying the knowledge. So, the ASUU has a bank of brains that can go into their research library, and then bring out ways how universities can be run if autonomy is given to universities. But as it were, Prof, we are seeing a double standard situation.
Okay. The double standard.
You want autonomy for universities, and then you appoint the pro-chancellors of the university. All right. I agree that the staff, that is the individual staff of the universities, are employees of the university councils. But who put the university councils there? Is it not government?
Okay.
The council is only a representative of the visitor.
Okay, well,
so
Prof,
the visitor is just
We've
there.
run out of time. I beg your pardon for interrupting you, but we do get your drift. And it does seem that we are in a quagmire at the moment. So thank you very, very much, Professor Ted Anyebe, for making time available for us this morning. It could have been smoother, but our apologies for that. And also, Mr. Ademola Adegoke, we've completely run out of time, but I want to thank you very much for your insights into this problem as well. And so what we've done there is sort of, we've seen where it's going. It looks to me like there's still a heck of a lot more work to be done on this particular subject matter. So that's our program today. Please join us tomorrow for a fresh edition. I'm Yori Folarin. Bye-bye for now.